In this video, I'll be reviewing some of your Pokemon. These are shared in the Nirth Hard Discord server in the Pokemon Sleep category under YouTube My Mon. And in this video specifically, we're going to have a look at 3 of Sonjya's Pokemon. The first Pokemon is Dragonite, and oh boy, are we in for a treat. It's time to put aside the jealousy a little bit, because this Dragonite is pretty cool. Now, the first thing that stands out to me here is the Dragonite is actually a herb list, so A, B, A. Not bad. Overall, maybe you would have wanted a mono herb or a double corn Dragonite to be more focused, but overall Dragonite is a very strong Pokemon, and we're going to get to why the ABA does not matter at all and that this Dragonite is a good Pokemon. A quick point here is ABA in general can be quite nice on ingredient specialists in the case that this B ingredient is one that you easily can tuck away in the bag and have use for later. An ingredient like this can, for example, be mushrooms and Gengar. Gengar has the exact same setup here, except instead of corn, it's mushrooms, and in different volumes. But herb, corn, herb is nice because when you're using the Dragonite, you're getting a ton of herbs at level 60, and then you're getting a decent chunk of corn that you can just tuck away and not worry about it. So this Dragonite, the first sub-skill, and we can also have a look at the level, it is 41, so it's just evolved, unless it was caught as something else. Okay, main skill level 3, which means it has evolved twice. And that almost checks out with the inventory, but we'll get to that too. The first sub-skill is Ingredient Finder M, and that is a good start. You always want to see that. And what's more, the nature is mild. We have this great combo effect here with the nature and the sub-skill, where ingredient finding up is multiplicative into this stuff, ingredient finder M, and the base ingredient rate of 26% goes up to 43%. It's super close to 50. It's just ridiculous. And at that point, you're going to be printing these ingredients. Not to mention, Dragonite decently fast, so it's a good Pokemon. Next up, we have inventory. Actually, inventory on a Dragonite usually is not particularly useful. It seems like this Dragonite has got 200 hours or more because the inventory is 43. And it seems like the frequency here is calculated correctly too. It's just that speed down, the other video messed me up. Okay, here's what I really like about this Dragonite. It's got, drumroll, Berry Finding. Now, Tyranitar and Dragonite are 2 Pokemon that kind of make sense to have Berry Finding on. The reason is their inventory is so huge to begin with. They also have strong berries, especially Dragonite. Like the Dragon type berry, top tier. It's the strongest berry across all, and we'll see that in the tables on my website in a bit. And so the Berry Finding in combo with the inventory, the Ingredient Finder M, the mild nature with a decent ingredient list is just almost all time. And yeah, watch this. It's got helping bonus. And it's got Ingredient Finder S. So, like, as an ingredient specialist, you basically can't go wrong with this. At level 100, which is ways away, this Dragonite is going to sit at a 50% ingredient rate. And that is crazy. It's almost to the point where that ingredient finding is a little bit, uh-oh, what do we do about that? Because there's basically no berry rate left. And this is another example where you simply have to take the whole picture in mind and compromise a little bit. Mono meta is not always the answer, but oftentimes it is super strong if just the stars align. And in this case, green grass corn, one of the top ingredients, you can tuck that away in your bag, no problem, produce a whole lot of herbs, and the berry finding too is going to be super nice. Now, I haven't mentioned the negative effect here with the nature that is almost so small you can ignore it, but energy recovery down on a self-healer will negatively impact not only the overnight energy when you sleep, but also the main skill. And so that is a little bit of a bummer, but it's already main skill level 3. Skill rate here is super low actually, 2.6%, so you're not gonna heal a lot with the Dragonite anyway, but it's gonna be a little bit of a boost, probably to where it never dips below 80 if you have a decent healer. So overall, very strong Pokemon. It is time to hop over into my website now that we've explored Dragonite a little bit together here. We go Sleep Dex, Ingredients, scroll a little bit down here and we're finding Ingredients, Dragonite. So we have the familiar widget design on the right here. We have the evolution section. The article itself is not finalized, so it's not up here on the site. And the tables that we want to have a look at is actually, in this case, all 3, because Yachi Berry is a ridiculous value of 35 at base. So the first thing we notice is the values right here. In this case, the Dragonite is a little bit unfortunate with the overall drops that Dragonite has. It's just the way this plays. So unfortunately, that does mean that the average value of the ingredient list here is going to be on the low end, but all of those sub skills that are stacked in your favor just makes up for it in heaps. So a level 30 corn, no, actually, sorry, herb is the highest value drop, 650. And this is a classic example of something where the value here is hugely different. Like 90 is a lot. And then you see that kind of again here. The difference between 910 and 1040 is 130. So if you then end up with the A, B, A, which we do in this case, herb, corn, herb, it is the lowest value you can possibly get. ABA, 557 in this case, and compared to the AAC, so herb, oil, it's almost 100 difference here in the average value. And that is pretty close to, as well, the AAB. And so this is where you kind of just want to have a look at some of these every now and then, because in a case like this, in general, you would probably not want to aim for that ABA pattern, just because the average production value here is so much lower. Maybe instead you want to go for that AAB. You get overall more corn, but just depends on your need and your collection. But yeah, you can see the difference here by having the B at level 30 or the B at level 60 is so that, wait, is there no sound? Oh, there is. Oh, I've been talking for so long. My bad. Yeah, you can see the difference here by having the B ingredient level 60 or at level 30 is pretty much 50 per production by just having a little bit more corn and a little bit less herbs totaling. So yeah, just some interesting numbers here to consider. And so the next thing here is the berry value. And also if you compare Dragonite to Altaria, which is the berry specialist for the dragon type currently, on a production basis, there's not a huge difference between a Dragonite and an Altaria. On a side note, this is not teased or anything like this, but in the future, it's not impossible that Altaria could be getting its Mega Evolution in the game, and maybe that could skew these numbers like drastically. I don't think that's impossible, but for now, where the feature is not even like, you can basically just ignore it with a very, very small exception. The berry value here is huge. So Dragonite as a berry finding is rivaling a output from Altaria. And what's interesting here is we can actually test for that on this website. So what we want to do then is maybe you want to just have two tabs or something and compare them right side and left side on the screen or something like this, or just remember the values. So if you have a Dragonite with berry finding and it's favored and it has 50% area bonus, so basically just it's the best case scenario. What is the best case scenario? So level 60, you got all these factors stacked for you. The value per berry drop, so there will be 2 berries when the Dragonite has berry finding. That total value is going to be 900, level 60 for these factors. The other thing to have to consider there is also the ingredient rate, as well as its frequency. So if we go to Sleep Decks, berries, scroll down a little bit, Altaria, scroll down a little bit more, we can see Altaria is way slower. It's almost 20 minutes slower. About the same ingredient rate, but this you preferably would want to lower down to 20% by having an ingredient down nature. Meanwhile, the Dragonite, you also want to adjust this one, but in the other way. So maybe closer to 40 or 50, as we saw with the Dragonite that Sonjya has. Okay, here's the thing. This value right here is for 3 berries because Altaria is a berry specialist, and with berry finding you get 3 per production. So level 60 for Altaria. With berry finding, favored, 50% area bonus, the total value per berry production is 1350. That's a whole lot more than 900. But if you adjust for the speed here, it gets very, very close. And it's so close, in fact, that I find it a little bit suspicious. But that's just me. So we had a look at some of these Pokemon, and it's an interesting comparison. So on all the numbers here, ABA, not the best ingredient list on a value, base value comparison, but the ingredients that you're getting here on a strong Pokemon such as Dragonite, you got herbs, corn, herbs, is very nice. So overall, this is a pristine Dragonite despite those factors, and you should be really happy about it. Alright, next Pokemon that Sonjya has here is an Absol, and this is absolutely insane. You got Absol in the house, and then it is level 35. It does not evolve, and the inventory seems to be 18. We also need to zero these out, and as mentioned previously, I will make a button for this so that we can just zero everything out at once. The nature on the Absol is rash, and that is probably the very best nature you could have possibly have rolled on the Absol, because the main skill means absolutely nothing. It's the worst main skill in the game, basically. Charge Strength S with a fixed value, 400. The skill rate here of 4% means nothing. Absol is fairly slow, it does not evolve. But here's the thing, this Absol is triple cacao. And a triple cacao Absol is super useful. And we're gonna have a look at some of these other sub-skills. There's one thing that is a little bit unfortunate with this Absol. First of all, it has Dream Shard bonus, which is basically neutral. It's got Ingredient Finder S. At level 100, it's got Ingredient Finder M. So that blocks the Ingredient Finder S to where you can't sub-skill seed the Ingredient Finding S, because you can only have one of each sub-skill present, and this one doesn't like automatically switch around or something. So there's also some inventory here, inventory of S, and some helping speed. If you somehow could do like an Uno reverse and just flip this upside down, where you have Ingredient Finder M, helping speed S, and inventory in those first 3 slots, that would be pretty crazy. And Absol too is super hard to level up because the candy is a bit of a rare one, and when you have handy candy, you probably want to give it to different Pokemon than, or other Pokemon than Absol. But overall, I would say it's again one of those situations where you have a rare Pokemon on top of this. Mono ingredient list. Absol currently, I believe, is the only ingredient specialist that can do Mono Cacao. That may change in the future, but as of now, this is pretty busted. And at that point, it's a 1 in 9 chance. The rash nature, the very best nature you could possibly have. And then on top, you have the ingredient finder S at level 25. And even though well, we kind of need to just zero this one out and also this one out for the comparison here, but oh man, is that a big jump. So Absol has a low ingredient rate of 18% at base with the ingredient finder S, and the ingredient finding up nature that gets boosted to 25% eventually. If you somehow can wand this to level 100, yikes, that's a big step up. 33%. Amazing. And if we then hop over to my website, we can take a look at Absol, because Absol has an interesting ingredient list. All of the ingredients, to an extent. No, actually, I take that back. That's Delibird. 2 of the ingredients here are quite complementary. You have cacao and apples, which are really, really nice for desserts. I guess you can make Neroli's tea or something if you roll the mushrooms, but for the most part, you probably want the triple cacao here, like Sonjya has, and potentially also some apples, depending on what you want. Now, Apples has a mono Pokemon in Fuecoco, which was introduced recently, so it's a big thing. And yeah, you can see the evolution section here in Absol is a little bit different than some of these others. So you can see I've not updated the Tyranitar, for example, yet, but it's a work in progress and we'll get there eventually. So let's have a look at these ingredient list tables. 2 cacao at level 1 has the value of 302. And you can see that at level 30, the highest value is 755 with those cacao. Actually, at level 60, the lowest value is cacao. And not too far away is the apples. But this is a huge jump. 1169. That's ridiculous. That's basically well over 100 points more per production whenever it just happens to roll on the level 60 slot. So it's a big difference. The Mono list for Absol has the reference point of 703. If we then go the highest values here, we have 302, 755, and 1169, which is AAC. We can see the difference here with the highest value in this column, and the reference point is what, 38? It's a decent amount, but overall, you probably don't want the mushrooms, even though the average value is higher. So getting the 3 cacao here is a huge deal. It's a great Pokemon that you found, and I'm really happy for you. And at that point, we have one final Pokemon that you shared, which is a Togepi. I actually don't know if you wanted me to share this one, but it is in the YouTube I'm on. So here we go. Currently, it is still a Togepi. It is not evolved. It is level 11, and its name is Egbert. It's a funny name indeed. And it seems like it does not have any time on it. And we can zero these out. And the nature is Sassy. I like Sassy. It's a pretty good nature. XP gains down don't matter too much, especially on a skill specialist where what you care about is the skill anyway. And so the first trait here is energy recovery bonus. Decent, especially if you do some naps, but it's not huge or anything like that. It's mostly just neutral plus, something like this, but here actually comes the first really strong sub-skill, and that is Skill Trigger S. And that has some nice comboing with the nature. And actually, there's nothing else later on blocking it. So if we just put in the helping bonus, we have research EXP bonus, which is another weird one. And we've got some helping speed S. Just give me one moment. I need to reset the music. I kind of found the trick here. But yeah, I wish I had tech that just worked perfectly every time. I don't live in such a world. So this skill trigger S here can easily be sub-skill seeded. And let's just wand this Togepi to Togekiss. It's then evolved twice. And maybe you have like 500 hours on it or something like this. Okay, and then you sub-skill seed it. You get the skill trigger M on it. And at this point, you have a couple of factors that are pretty nice. The ingredient list does not matter on Togekiss. It's got a very, very low ingredient rate. You'll just be frustrated if you think at any point in time that you're getting any ingredients. Actually, berry finding on Togekiss, underrated. So Dr. Fail, that Togekiss of yours is actually pretty good. So, Togekiss Skill Specialist, 5.3 in the skill rate, with a main skill chance up nature and a sub-skill seeded skill trigger M. That skill rate jumps to 8.6. That is very high as a skill specialist. And helping bonus as well is helping with the speed, and Togekiss decently fast. It's also got the speed here though, which kind of skews it. Now, if this Togepi had been evolved, the actual profile would say this number right here. So it's just helping bonus is not accounted for in the profile, it's in the team overview. But overall, I would say this Togekiss right here is fairly decent. It will require some main skill seeds, and I would say Togekiss overall probably C tier. It's not among the top Pokemon in the game, but that may to an extent just be because we don't understand how to use it properly. For skill specialist, 5.3% is fairly high, and especially with that speed. And so metronome then essentially becomes the average value of all the main skills with whatever that skill rate is, minus the convenience factor of getting the skills that you want when you want them, because here you just pick from the hat every time. Sometimes you're super lucky, other times you're super unlucky. So yeah, Togekiss, don't know if I recommend people to use it, but it's a fun Pokemon. And yeah, it's my favorite Pokemon outside of Sleep, just favorite Pokemon in general. So it kind of sucks that it's not like top tier or anything, but yeah. I think that was it for this video. Rather long one, but I think it was an interesting breakdown either way. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and you can give it a thumbs up if you'd like to see more.